So.
Is it helpful if all of the meeting information for all of the boards is on the calendar? Is that like a better place for people to go to just because they grab it quickly?
Well, if there's like a link to the agenda, there's like this, growing up, Android, you go to the WeHo site, you go to agendas, you hit planning, it brings you up another page, and then there is yet an additional link. We're all the same, like, on a calendar that is showing the meetings, if there's any means possible to have the link right there, which actually brings you directly into the actual agenda and not, the introductory page. Right.
Yeah, you don't want to have to like usually more than twice to get on. Okay, that's helpful. Okay.
You're looking good. You're looking for fun. I got lucky. He stuck around because my block alone during the first year and a half of COVID, my neighborhood is not dog intensive like Detroit, Formosa, or Hayward. We lost like 7 dogs, not age, disease, and it's just like I mentioned Ogden. It ain't over yet, but as bad as it has been, it could have been that much worse, which is what is very scary because God only knows. I mean, you didn't have to wash everything. It just could have been so much worse. But it impacted everyone and lose something that would have been just a force of support.
My son lost his first year of high school. And I think it just set the tone for it. So, yeah.
Does he talk? What district?
Because we live in Santa Clarita, so it's very good. He was in Beverly Hills Unified. I'm going to grab some drink for the meeting. Do you want some? Okay. All right. I'll grab some.
All right, welcome everyone. It's so nice to see people in person. I am calling to order this meeting of the West Hollywood Planning Commission. It is, what's today's date? Thursday, July 21st. First, I'm going to read our land acknowledgement. The West Hollywood Planning Commission acknowledges that the land on which we gather and that is currently known as the city of West Hollywood is the occupied, unceded, seized territory of the Gabrielino Tongva and Gabrielino Kij peoples. To view the Planning Commission meeting, for anybody who may be tuning in at home, please note that the Zoom platform dial-in is 669-900-6833. Meeting ID is 835-6798-5097, is the official viewing platform for the City of West Hollywood's public meetings. To afford the public with another viewing option, digital streaming platform viewers can easily find programming by searching for WehoTV within the search function on YouTube. You can also view on YouTube at www.youtube.com/WehoTV. Other viewing options and platforms are made available as a courtesy to viewers, and their reliability cannot be assured by the city. If you experience technical difficulties while viewing the meeting on one of these platforms, please access WehoTV at the city's website, www.weho.org/WehoTV, and visit https://www.weho.org/city-government/boards-commissions/planning-commission for updated information and assistance on meeting access. To participate by providing an e-comment, members of the public who wish to comment on matters before the Planning Commission are strongly encouraged to submit an e-comment using the form located at https://www.weho.org/citygovernment/WehoTV no later than 4 p.m. on the Planning Commission meeting day. E-comments received by 4 p.m. will be forwarded to the Planning Commission and posted on the city's website as part of the official meeting record. To participate by providing public comment by telephone, this option is to provide public comment via phone only. To view the meeting, please see information on how to view the meeting provided above. You are strongly encouraged to email dgillig, that's D-G-I-L-L-I-G, @weho.org in advance of the Planning Commission meeting to be added to the public speaker list for the meeting. Please include your name, the phone number from which you will be calling, and which item you would like to speak on. Dial in 10 minutes prior to the start of the meeting. The meeting begins at 6:30 p.m. Dial-in codes *6 is unmute, *9 lets the host know you want to speak on the current item. Again, the dial-in, I will repeat this for posterity, is 669-900-6833. The meeting ID is 835-6798-5097. Your phone will be muted until you are called to speak. Comments from the public are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Okay, so I guess I've called the meeting to order. Number 2 is Pledge of Allegiance. I can barely see anybody's face because everyone's wearing a mask, as well you should. Commissioner Lombardi, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure, and do I stay seated since this is my first time, or do we? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I do want to note that item 3, which was to administer the oath of office to our newly appointed Planning Commission member, Kimberly Copeland, will be delayed until the next meeting. She was not able to be here tonight, but we do look forward to welcoming her at the next meeting. Item 4A, we have 2 special orders of business. Item A is election of the chair, and item B is election of the vice chair. And I believe our one and only City Clerk, Melissa Crowder, will be leading us in this.
Thank you, Chair Jones. Good evening, Commission. Thank you for having me tonight. So yes, I will be conducting the election of the chair and the vice chair. So we will start with a call for nominations for chair.
There it goes. I nominate Stacey Jones.
Okay. Just for a technical issue, Stacy, how long have you been in the chair role for this rotation? 3 months?
It was since Commissioner Hoopengarner left, so it actually was the weekend, the first weekend of May, so it would have been the first meeting after that.
Okay.
I believe.
So you're eligible. I just wanted to confirm that you're eligible.
Okay. Yeah.
Do we have any other nominations for chair? Okay, can I have a motion to close the nominations?
I'll make a motion to close the nomination.
Motion by Commissioner Calvar-Harrow. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gregoire. Now I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Calvar-Harrow.
Yes.
Commissioner Gregoire.
Yes.
Commissioner Lombardi.
Yes.
Vice Chair Thomas.
Yes.
Chair Jones.
Yes,
And Chair Jones remains your chair for the Planning Commission.
thank you.
Thank you. So now I will call for nominations for vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Marquita Thomas.
I would like to second.
Okay. Do we have any other nominations? Okay. Do I have a motion to close?
I'll move.
Moved by Chair Jones,
I'll second that.
second by Commissioner Gregoire. And I'll do roll call. Commissioner Calvar-Harrow.
Yes.
Commissioner Gregoire.
Yes.
Commissioner Lombardi.
Yes.
Vice Chair Thomas.
Yes.
Chair Jones.
Yes,
Your new vice chair, or once again, is Vice Chair Thomas. Thank you.
thank you, and it's really nice to see you IRL, Ms. Crowder.
Thank you.
And thank you to my peers. I'm very happy to see you in person. Okay, Mr. Gillick, could you please lead us, or could you please do roll call now that we're,
Thank you, and welcome, commissioners. Commissioner Lombardi,
Present.
Commissioner Gregoire,
Here.
Commissioner Carvalero,
Here.
Vice Chair Thomas,
Here.
Chair Jones,
here?
and we have a quorum.
Thank you. Item 6 is approval of the agenda subject. Do we have any changes or requests for changes to the agenda as it stands right now?
I move approval.
I'll second.
Great. David, can you call the vote, please?
Thank you. Chair Jones,
Yes.
Vice Chair Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Carvalero,
Yes.
Commissioner Gregoire,
Yes.
Commissioner Lombardi. And the agenda is approved as presented for July 21st, 2022.
Thank you.
I'm not sure who made that motion. I think I made the motion. The public record said it with Commissioner Lombardi.
Oh, okay, noted. Thank you.
Item 7 is approval of the minutes. We'll vote on these individually as I need to, well, we'll vote on these individually. So item 7A is the minutes of June 2nd, 2022. Do we have any changes? Do we have a motion for approval?
I'll move approval.
I'll second. David, are you, sorry, please go ahead.
I'm sorry, who made the motion, please?
I made the
Commissioner
motion.
Gregoire made the motion and I seconded.
Yeah, okay. Commissioner Lombardi,
Yes.
Commissioner Gregoire,
Yes.
Commissioner Carvalero,
Yes.
Vice Chair Thomas,
Yes.
Chair Jones.
Yes.
And the minutes for June 2nd, 2022 are approved as presented.
Great, thank you.
So I'm aware, are we using the device to make motions? Or
That's
are we...
I was just going to ask that.
Yeah, yes, if you can, yeah, please do.
And should we also be, because I think you indicated this for me, I just saw for the yay vote, should we be voting or should we wait for you to call our names and then you will add yay or nay?
No, I mean, after you vote and you put in your vote, it'll appear on the screen,
Okay.
and then I'll just confirm that.
Okay, great,
Yeah.
thank you. Thanks for the public for bearing with us. This is a new system and some of us have never used it before or just forgot how. In any case, okay, item 7B is approval of the minutes for the meeting June 16th, 2022. I just want to note that I will need to abstain from this as I was not present at that meeting.
Chair, we do have a public speaker that would like to speak on this. Michael Wokolevich.
On items, on the minutes from June 2nd, or?
I believe it's on 7A.
Okay.
Yeah.
I promise it won't affect your votes. Good evening. The name is Michael Wojtkalewicz, long-standing, even longer upstanding resident, West Hollywood. I begin by thanking city staff and assuring those present, whether sitting upon the dais or the few from the public who are sitting directly behind me, there's no reason for concern. Likewise, those who are enjoying this meeting from the comfort of a remote location, no need for any adjustment. Although finding a member from the public speaking on an agenda item related to the approval of meeting minutes may seem unsettling, this is indeed a right the public does in fact retain. So I stand here not by some special allowance given or reasonable accommodation granted, but because of what is allowed by the Brown Act, thus should find itself common, occurring at any city meeting, whether council, commission, advisory board, task force, etc., if requested. So again, gratitude towards those staff members who allowed themselves to question what was first decided, their initial denial of the public for this time. So onwards. There are 3 reasons wanting to speak on the approval for the minutes relating to June 2nd. And trust me, I get it, 16 pages long. One agenda item took nearly 4 hours to be heard, adding on to prior hearings that have built a plethora of paperwork. That said, any delay in the normal turnaround time for release of information to the public may have impact, consequence than that desired. Second point, although 16 pages long, one would think quicker release of the minutes given the skewed and foreshortened synopsis granted to some. Ironically, this factual occurrence appears more tied to specific West Hollywood residents than, say, someone from Los Angeles or maybe Marina Del Rey, as is the case given to the detailed accounts given by Genevieve Morrell and Jake Stevens. The fact that the acknowledgement by this commission to overlook at least one individual who stayed online for over 4 hours to speak on the 1201-1207 Detroit proposal only then allowed time in the last round of public comment after the vote was taken, its deletion from the minutes is shameful. The distortion given within the minutes for that person's comment is purely dishonest. Lastly, the allowance by the current planning commissioner chair to allow the representatives for the EAH project on Detroit to besmirch my character during his rebuttal was uncalled for. My credentials, my vast experience, much of which is tied to affordable housing at many levels, from design, from living, from nonprofit board, was not known. Thus should not have been allowed to be questioned during a rebuttal. It is a violation of your code of conduct. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And that is our last public speaker for this item.
Thank you. Okay. Item 7B again is minutes from the meeting on June 16th. Again, I'll be abstaining from this as I was not present.
And can we have a motion?
I'll move approval of the minutes.
I'll second.
Thank you. Commissioner Lombardi.
This is not working over here for me, but yes,
Are we voting
There you
by electronic?
there it is.
And the motion passes, noting Chair Jones abstaining to approve the minutes of June 16, 2022 as presented.
Thank you. Okay, item 8 is public comment. And again, I'm so happy to see anyone's face who showed up tonight. It's been a long 2.5 years. Do we have any public speakers, David?
We do, Chair. Our first public speaker will be Mayor Pro Tempora Shine. She will be followed by Michael Wokolevich.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair Jones, Vice Chair Thomas, and commissioners, and congratulations on your election tonight and 3 months ago. I am so happy to see you all back in chambers and back in person. And I just came here because I know you were coming back, and I wanted to say thank you for your service. And that's it. Just giving you all gratitude for the work you do, and it's a lot on this commission. So thank you for being back in person. And Chair Jones, absolutely, it's been a long 2 years, almost 2 years now, and I guess, who knows about time now with being post-pandemic, time recall is a thing. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Our next speaker will be Michael Wokolevich, followed by Christopher Jimenez.
Good evening again, Michael Wokolevich. Please bear with me because this is coming off the cuff. This is the first time that I have been in this chambers, not accompanied by a living creature that I felt complete partnership with. So I think I can do this because this was truly great. It's one of those WeHo moments I so desperately hope and wish for, and it happened. So something incredible, maybe even shocking, I don't think I've ever seen it before, at a city meeting happened a few days ago. In the presence of Mayor Lauren Meister, Mayor Pro Tem Seppi Shine, and in the midst of a task force that was set up on social justice, a community listening session happened Tuesday evening, and it was held in Fiesta Hall. And there's relevance to that meeting because although unremarkable for a community listening meeting, there was one specific thing that has direct nexus to this commission. But let's start with the good. In the middle of community discourse, out from the field, the lawn of Plummer Park, in comes a minor, maybe 12, maybe 13, maybe 14 years old. I paint the picture, individual probably just scored a goal in soccer, and in victory just kept running, and before they knew it, they were within Fiesta Hall. Many seats available, they took one. Discourse happening, they raised their hand. To the credit of the consultant, the moderator, they were called upon. The question asked, what is going on? Brief explanation was given. The minor sat down. Conversation begins. He raises his hand, and he is called upon again. He's going to give his comments on the current agenda material being discussed, which was cannabis. All right? The minor is smart. They know their stuff. He leaves, waltzes in again, raises his hand. Now they're on housing and homeless. Pertinent questions. Leaves, maybe another goal, comes back in. Now it's legalizing the sex worker trade. Despite the age, he has relevant things to say, and he does it without naming any letter of the alphabet. My time is dwindling down, so I'm going to ask you for a big favor. I'm foregoing additional requests for comments on agenda items, but I just want to let you know really quickly. They talked, the forum, the social justice people, the people who, like you, are appointed by the same council members. What their expectations are for deliveries by the city in ways of housing the homeless are in direct opposition to what you allowed on June 2nd by the waivers that you granted EAH. The storage area, no outdoor space. It's one of these things that I have been talking about, the disconnect between, members who are appointed by the same people. I strongly encourage you, you don't have to talk to me, the offer still stands, but I think you need to sit down with the Social Justice Task Force. And they need to hear from you to understand your decisions, and you need to hear from them to understand their ideals. I thank you so much. It's different, but it's kind of nice to be back in the chambers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Our final in-person speaker will be Christopher Jimenez. Christopher, you have 3 minutes. You have 3 minutes. Yeah.
Hi. Totally ill-prepared for this. I was just told about this yesterday.
Just state your city of residence, please.
Can I what?
Just state your city of residence.
West Hollywood?
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Is this better? A little better? Okay, there we go. So I was just saying that I'm totally ill-prepared for this because I was just told about this meeting yesterday. But first I wanted to thank, I'm part of the community gardens over on Detroit. I'm new to the neighborhood, and as I moved into the neighborhood, I was trying to find ways of getting to know the neighborhood. And I found out about the gardens, and I was very excited. As with COVID and everything, I was working from home a lot, and this gave me an excuse to set up my garden, and it's doing pretty well. Got a watermelon the other day. That was exciting. So I wanted to thank whoever was responsible for that, because I think it's a great asset to the neighborhood. But yesterday I was told that there is they're building something there. So they're gonna either relocate the gardens. I don't know, I haven't done my due diligence on that yet, but either they're moving them or they're canceling the program, I'm not sure. I will be looking into that. But in case they are just getting rid of it altogether and not replacing them or expanding the program, I just wanted to say that I think that's a big error, because when I'm there gardening, so many people stop by, they smile, they inquire about it, they want to know how they can get involved. And I just think it's such a great asset to the neighborhood, and I think it's, pardon the pun, but building roots, and people, when they ask me about it, it's hard for me to tell them how to get involved, because I don't think that the city did a good enough job promoting it. And I can tell because a lot of the people are West Hollywood residents, and they didn't get any sort of, I don't know, literature on it. I have no idea. So anyways, I will be doing, now that I know about this, I didn't know that they were replacing the program, but now that I know about this, I will look into it, and I hope I get to see more of you guys in the future. I'll try to get more involved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christopher. That is our last in-person public comment. We do have a couple public comments on the Zoom platform with us.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. Our first speaker in Zoom this evening is Zakia Wright. Zakia, please press *6, and you will have 3 minutes to provide public comment.
Good evening, Commission. My name is Zakia Wright, a resident of West Hollywood. Congratulations to Chair Copeland and Vice Chair Thomas this evening. I'm sorry, Chair Jones and Vice Chair Thomas. I am the liaison from the Rent Stabilization Commission, so I just wanted to introduce myself. Hopefully next time I'll be in person, and I just look forward to reporting back to my commission and all the happenings with you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Zakia. Our next speaker in Zoom this evening is Lynn Russell. Lynn, please press *6, and you will have 3 minutes to provide public comment.
Are we on?
Yes, we are. Go ahead.
Good. Good evening, Chair Jones and fellow commissioners. On future affordable housing projects, it is really a hope that each of the commissioners would look below the surface, especially when these come before you. On June 2nd, the 1201-1207 North Detroit project, the only commissioner that queried the project regarding the 50/50
Lynn, press *. Okay. Lynn, press *6.
Okay?
Yeah, go ahead. We'll start your time over. Go ahead, Lynn.
I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on here, but I'll start over. Good evening, Chair Jones and fellow commissioners. It's the hope that each of the commissioners would look below the surface on any future affordable housing projects that may come before you. On the 1201-1207 North Detroit project, the only commissioner that queried the project regarding the 50/50 split between low-income and previously unhoused individuals was Commissioner Thomas. The alarming thing was that there were no further questions or discussions. The following day, since it seemed very odd, I looked into it by speaking with the architect and was rather perplexed to find out that the appearance of an arm's length wraparound concept of services provided by St. John's in Santa Monica would be attached to this project. That was peripherally suggested at the meeting. And after the recent city council meeting and hearing the update on the homeless initiative by Corey Plank, who announced what appeared to be near negligible process provided by 2 entities operating outside of West Hollywood. The figures that she presented seem long on PR and rather short on realism. Hopefully, the next time a project like this comes before you, it would be excellent if you would dig deeper or have the appropriate city staff member describe the full context of this inclusion as to how the homeless folks plan to seamlessly traverse the divide while living alongside the 50% residents who will presumably not know what to expect or need to make an untenable choice given their circumstances. This I don't know what their entree, the normal residents would have entree to this, but I believe it would be helpful if we had a more concrete, clear plan to see this in essence rather than wishful thinking. So thank you so much. And David, I will not be speaking on the other items requested. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. That was our final speaker in Zoom this evening.
Great, thank you. Item 9 is the director's report.
Thank you, Chair and members of the Commission. It's great to be back. It's nice to see people in person and meet a couple of the commissioners that I have not met in person since they were appointed, so it's great to be back. And congratulations to the Chair and Vice Chair for being elected tonight. I have a few items to talk about. First, the zone text amendments at last Monday's City Council meeting. The Planning Commission recommended approval of some changes to alcohol rules for restaurants and some parking changes for restaurants. The City Council passed the changes as they relate to the alcohol use, allowing restaurants to sell to-go alcohol and streamlining the permitting process. The City Council also approved a reduction in parking requirements for outdoor dining. They did not eliminate them altogether. Instead, what the City Council did is they increased the amount of area that would be exempt from parking requirements from 250 square feet up to 1,000 square feet. So that still allows for expansion of outdoor dining areas, fairly sizable area without parking. So that's going to come back. We have to make some changes to the ordinance based on that, so that will go back to them shortly. The next major item from the Planning Commission that's going to council will be Robertson Lane, and that's scheduled for August 15th, so in a couple of meetings. And then finally, I want to announce that we have a new long-range planning manager, and his name is Francisco Contreras, and he was in the planning department many years ago, and he went on to be the manager of the Innovations Division, and he'll be returning full-time in September. And so Ann McIntosh will be with us through the rest of the summer, July and August. And that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to see you. Any questions for Mr. Kehoe? All right, thank you very much. Item 10 is items from commissioners. Do we have any comments from commissioners? I'm looking at Commissioner Lombardi, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So first of all, I want to congratulate you, Chair Jones and Vice Chair Thomas, on your nominations. Can you all hear me? Much better? Okay. Congratulations, Chair Jones and Vice Chair Thomas, on your nominations. And it was really nice to see Mayor Pro Tem Shine here today to congratulate us as well. It's great to be here in person. This is my first meeting. I feel like I'm one of the pandemic commissioner survivors, I guess I will say. And I'm sure you can relate, Vice Chair Thomas. It's unfortunate to hear that Kimberly Copeland is sick today and will not be sworn in. I do hope that she has a fast recovery and we get to see her soon. And I did want to also make one comment regarding the previous meeting on June 16th. And I truly mean this with no malice toward any commissioners. I did feel that we breezed through the zone text amendments that were presented, and the city's bundling of these two amendments under the topic of formalizing temporary pandemic measures was partially true, but items were revised that were not discussed during long-range planning. And we did vote on these two measures bundled together, which were separate topics, which I felt was somewhat confusing. I was in support of these measures, but overall it made for a challenging process, especially via Zoom. When presented to City Council on Monday, the zone text amendments were better clarified to acknowledge that there was some streamlining in terms of the public process, in particular regarding alcohol sales. The urgency of these items was something that I questioned, and I believe was also questioned during the City Council meeting. And I do wonder why this moved forward so quickly. I like to think of the commission as a collegial group, and I appreciate the discussions that we have, and I do hope that we can strive to continue to have those discussions, that we can feel heard and give everyone the time and space to get out what they want to discuss so that we can make the best possible decisions. And on that note, I believe tonight we may be hearing one item that we would not be hearing in the future. So interesting to look at it in that perspective too tonight.
Thank you. Any other commissioners like to speak at this time? Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not used to the tennis neck here. First, I just want to, I know I've said this now like 9 times, but I just want to thank everyone who's here, my fellow commissioners, 2 of whom I met outside, one of you at an airport lounge, and one of whom I met at a fundraising event for someone in the city, and one of whom I met tonight for the first time in person. And also just to thank staff. I have several of us have been on commission, two of us, since before the pandemic, and I think I personally much prefer in-person meetings. I just want to thank staff for getting this all together. I want to thank all of our speakers. Mayor Pro Tem Shine, thank you for coming. Michael Wigalevich, so nice to see you again. It's been a few years. And people who called in, we always say this, but truly, we are citizens too of West Hollywood, and we cannot do our jobs without you coming. So thank you. Before I become too effusive, I'm gonna stop, but I just want to let all of you know how happy I am to see you and how happy I am that we all made it safely through the pandemic, because it was rough. Any other comments from commissioners? I just have one comment. If you do make a motion, please also be sure to say that you're making a motion. Sometimes it can be very confusing, and I can't always see it on my screen. So going forward, if there is something that you want to move, just make sure that when you hit it, that you also say I'm making a motion. It's just easier that way. Okay, moving on to item 11, consent calendar. There is none, and we'll move right into public hearings. We have 4 tonight. We will start with item 12A, 955 North Hancock Avenue. This is a subdivision request. And I will turn this over to staff.
Dare I switch to Zoom? It's on Zoom. Yeah, we're switching. Give us a sec. Switch to Zoom. That's okay. Hang on one second, Derek. Okay, so
That sound good?
now we can, yes, thank you.
You guys can hear me? I think we need to mute someone.
Hang on one second. It's hard to see the participant list when the screen shares up, so let me stop.
Let me,
Yeah,
maybe
give me
stop.
one sec.
Oh,
Nope.
I think she's muted now.
Okay,
Okay.
all good. Thanks, Derek.
Let's try this again. Sorry about that. Okay, can everyone see my screen now?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, Derek.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Derek Purification, Associate Planner for the City of West Hollywood. The item before you is item 12A, which is the request for a tentative parcel map for the subdivision of a 2-story, 3-unit residential building, which is also referred as a common interest development in our zoning code, which is also not to be confused with tenants in common. So 2 different things. The subject property is located on the west side of Hancock Avenue. It's located in the R2 zone, which is residential low density. It is located between Holloway Drive to the north and Santa Monica Boulevard to the south. And in this next screen, you can see the actual subdivision itself. The request is to subdivide the 3 units. You can see this is the first unit, second in the middle, and third in the rear. The project was administratively approved in December of 2020, and the project is currently under plan check review right now. The project qualifies for CEQA exemption under section 15332 for infill development projects. Staff is able to make the findings to recommend approval to the Planning Commission to approve the request for the tentative parcel map pursuant to the draft resolution PC 22-1471. That pretty much concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. Do we have any questions for staff at this time? Okay, David, do we have any public speakers on this item?
Thank you, Chair. No, I received no public comment forms for this item.
Great, thank you. So I will go ahead and close the public comment portion of the public hearing. Sorry, I'm still getting used to this, readjusting. And we can move into deliberation. Any comments from commissioners? These tend to be pretty cut and dry. I believe by law we're required to hear them. But we can also move forward with the motion if someone has one.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
Great, thank you.
Were we supposed to have public comment on?
We did, there wasn't anybody, yeah.
Thank you, and the motion passes unanimously. There is an appeal process. The resolution the Planning Commission just approved memorializes the Commission's final action on this matter. This action is subject to appeal to the City Council. Appeals must be submitted within 10 calendar days from this date to the City Clerk's office. Appeals must be in writing and accompanied by the required fees. The City Clerk's office can provide appeal forms and information about waiver of fees.
Thank you, David. Moving on to item 11B. This is 1159 North Formosa Avenue. This is again a subdivision request, and we will turn this over to staff. I don't know if it's going to be someone via Zoom or here IRL, but great. Oh, sorry, 12B. I'm correcting, it's item 12B. I don't know what I said, but thank you for the correction, Vice Chair Thomas.
Commissioners, before you this evening is a request to approve a tract map for a previously approved 5-unit multifamily residential building that was approved by the Planning Commission in 2015 into a common interest development. Sorry, I'm trying to go to the next screen. A tentative tract map was previously approved and has since expired. The building is currently under construction. Per the applicant, the project is slated to be completed by the end of the year or early next year. The project was designed and approved to comply with the requirements of dwellings within the R3B zoning district and all other applicable provisions of the city's zoning ordinance. The subdivision of this building will not be detrimental to the public welfare and will not impede implementation of the general plan, nor the purpose and intent of the provisions of the zoning ordinance. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the subdivision permit as conditioned in the draft resolution. Staff is available for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Lori. Any questions for staff at this time? I'm gonna take that as a no. Do we have any public speakers on this item, David?
Thank you, Chair. No, we received no public comments for this item.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and move us into deliberation and close the public comment portion of the public hearing. Do I have any comments from commissioners or a motion to approve?
I made a motion.
Second.
Great, thank you.
The second one was by Commissioner Gregoire.
Noted.
Thank you.
Thank you, and the motion passes unanimously. There is an appeal process. The resolution the Planning Commission just approved memorializes the Commission's final action on this matter. This action is subject to appeal to the City Council. Appeals must be submitted within 10 calendar days from this date to the City Clerk's office. Appeals must be in writing and accompanied by the required fees. The City Clerk's office can provide appeal forms and information about waiver of fees.
Thank you, David. Item 12C is 909 North Ogden Drive. Again, this is a request to approve a subdivision of a residential building into a common interest development. I'll turn this over to staff. Jennifer Alkire. No, Zoom.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The request is to approve the tract map for a previously approved 6-unit multifamily residential building that was approved by the Director of Planning and Development Services in 2020 as rental units. The property is currently vacant and the project has recently been approved by the Building and Safety Division. Construction is expected to start shortly. The project was designed and approved to comply with the requirements of dwellings within the R3B zoning district and all other applicable provisions of the zoning ordinance. The subdivision of this building will not be detrimental to the public welfare and will not impede implementation of the general plan, nor the purpose and intent of the provisions of the zoning ordinance. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the subdivision permit as conditioned in the draft resolution. Staff received a comment from a neighbor with concerns about the property not being secure, which potentially poses a safety issue for the neighborhood. The buildings were previously demolished because people were breaking into the building and living inside the building, which is something that can unfortunately happen when a building is vacant. Staff has reached out to the property owner to ensure the site remains safe and secure throughout the construction process, and they have agreed to keep a close eye on it throughout that process. The applicant team also reached out to the neighbor to provide contact information throughout the construction process and to address any resident concerns. Staff drove by the property this morning and the site was secure. Further, this resident requested that the city approve more units throughout the city due to the housing crisis and was not in favor of the request for condos over rental units. I let him know that I would bring up his comments as he was unable to attend the meeting tonight. That concludes my presentation, and staff is available for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Lori. Do we have any questions for staff from commissioners at this time? No? Okay.
I did. My question's been partially answered. I had some concerns about how long this lot had been vacant. So what assurances do we have that the applicant will be, that there will be a project there soon? Because this, first of all, how long has this vacant lot been there? When did they demolish the previous property?
I believe it was demolished a few months ago, and the reasoning for that was that code compliance and the sheriff's department had issues with people breaking into the property. The building was boarded up. The boards were taken down. I think there was even a fire that was started in the building, so it just kept, the owner kept boarding it back up, and they kept having issues. So we asked that the applicant submit an early demolition permit to demolish the building so these issues would not continue. So that's why the building or the property is vacant for now.
Okay, I just had concerns about how long this, because the entitlement was quite some time ago, and I just had concerns about the impact on public safety in particular. So thank you for providing that information. I know that this is within the valid permit window set by the municipal code, but we like to get projects going, and so I just wanted to know if we heard from the applicant about when they expect to start construction, so that we don't continue to have this vacant lot that could attract any number of issues.
The applicant is available, Andrea. If you have any questions, if you'd like to ask her, she probably has a better idea than staff.
Yes, I can report that construction has been prepared. The temporary fencing has been put up. A toilet has been delivered to site, but they're preparing to start immediately.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff or the applicant at this time? Looks like a no. David, do we have any public speakers on this item?
Thank you, Chair. No, we do not have any public comments over this.
Thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment portion of the public hearing. We can move into deliberation, or we can get a motion to approve.
I would move approval.
I'll second.
Thank you. And the motion passes unanimously. We have an appeal process. The resolution the Planning Commission just approved memorializes the Commission's final action on this matter. This action is subject to appeal to the City Council. Appeals must be submitted within 10 calendar days from this date to the City Clerk's office. Appeals must be in writing and accompanied by the required fees. The City Clerk's office can provide appeal forms and information about waiver of fees.
Thank you. So we will move along to an item I expect to be a little more involved. This is item 12D, 8275 Santa Monica Boulevard, Monica's House. This is a public hearing to consider a request for a new bar and distill, I'm just going to read this, in an existing commercial tenant space for the property located at the aforementioned address. So kick it off to staff.
Okay, I assume everybody can see my PowerPoint presentation. If you don't, please stop me.
We can see it, Roger. Thank you.
Oh, great. Thank you. All right, so good evening, Chair, Commission, and members of the public. My name is Roger Rath, and I am the Associate Planner for the City of West Hollywood. The item before you is a conditional use permit for the tenant space located at 8275 Santa Monica Boulevard. The request is for the sale, service, and on-site consumption of beer, wine, and distilled cocktails, also known as full alcohol, under ABC license type 48 for a new bar, Monica's House, in an existing 1,600 square feet tenant space. This request is also in conjunction with interior tenant improvements. The project is exempt from CEQA under section 15303 for new construction or conversions of small structures. The subject property sits on a 7,500 square foot lot in the CC1 zone. The tenant space is located on the ground floor of a one-story commercial building split into two tenant spaces. The building is identified as having potential for designation for a local cultural resource. The surrounding neighborhood consists of other commercial uses to the west, south, and east, and to the north are residential uses that is set back over 52 feet away from the structure. The scope of work is limited to the interior only and a new bar. There are no physical improvements to the facade. The floor plan includes the main room containing a couple of booths, seating at the bar counter, and a few two-seat tables. Behind the main room, past a short corridor, is a restroom with 4 individual stalls, and the rear of the tenant space is enclosed lounge that does not provide access to the property's rear yard and is utilized by the bar use only. The 4-stall restroom will be shared with the adjacent tenant in the building, a retail cannabis and edibles consumption lounge that will restrict entry onto its premises to persons 21 years of age and over, similar to the proposed bar. There are 5 other establishments in this area with an active license to sell beer, wine, and distilled spirits, ABC license type 47, for on-site consumption as an accessory use to a restaurant. There are no bars within the general vicinity. Some of the key highlights of the proposed project that I wanted to point out are that the applicant is not proposing any exterior changes. There is a change of use from a restaurant with no previous alcohol service to a bar with no intensification of use, since there is no additional parking being triggered. The proposed hours of operations are from 11 a.m. to 2 a.m., with the sales and service ending at 1:30 a.m. The entire use is contained within the interior of the building with no live entertainment or dance floor. The proposed use of a small-scale bar and the sale, service, and on-site consumption of beer, wine, and distilled spirits is well suited for the site and the surrounding neighborhood. The request adds to the variety of business for both daytime and nighttime life on the Santa Monica Boulevard West that provides economic and fiscal benefits to the city. The project has been conditioned to minimize impacts to the surrounding neighborhood and residents and meets all the other zoning ordinance requirements. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the subject project as conditioned in the draft resolution PC 22-1472. So this concludes my presentation. I am available for any questions you may have, and the applicant is also on the line. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Do we have any questions for staff at this time? Commissioner Gregoire?
I guess 2 questions. The first one, I did see in the staff report some references to protecting the neighborhood from noise from the back of the establishment. I guess I wanted more detail about that. Will there not be any access at all via window or door or whatever to the back of the establishment, out of which music and other noise could be heard by the residents?
Correct. The bar use is contained to all enclosed areas. So then the floor plan, if you see that seating / lounge area, that's all enclosed. So there's no outdoor space for this use.
My second question was ADA compliance. I just wanted to make sure that those bathrooms were ADA compliant, and have we looked at that?
Yeah, ADA compliance is reviewed when it goes to building plan check, which is the next step after this, if this project obtains approval.
That's my last question.
Thank you.
Commissioner Thomas, or Vice Chair Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. In the staff report, it states that Monica's House will purchase the same number of credits as the previous restaurant. Could you explain to the public how parking credits work? We've seen that the city has been evaluating parking minimums a lot lately. So I wanted to make sure that the public understands how parking credits work. And also, could you let us know how many credits the previous restaurant purchased?
Sure. So the way that parking credits work is that the city devised a program where there's different districts that we deem that there is enough public parking to kind of service the area. So that kind of, not eliminates, but kind of allows businesses within that district area boundaries to take advantage of, to meet their required parking. So for instance, this area, we have the King's parking structure that helps, support the public parking for this district. And, businesses are allowed to kind of pay for these parking credits to satisfy parking requirements. For this project in particular, the parking credits that they have obtained, let me look into that. Do you mind if I kind of take some time to kind of pull that up on our tracking system and get back to you?
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
Roger, I'm just wondering if this is something that you think you should wait until after. Are you able to pull it up now? I'm not putting you on blast. I'm just curious to know how long you think it'll take.
Oh yeah, I was hoping that while you guys are asking me more questions, I can kind of
Sure.
pick it up on the side.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Understood.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any additional questions for staff?
Yes, I have some questions. Mr. Rath, could you clarify if you were to order a drink at this bar, could you take it over to the cannabis lounge?
No, you would not, just because the cannabis has very restrictive requirements about crossover between alcohol uses and cannabis. So they actually went through the Business License Commission, received approval with conditions to kind of prevent crossover and not allow for alcohol to kind of go between two spaces.
Okay, and I see on the plans that there is a large studio and seating area near the rear of the building after the restrooms, and there is no door, or is there a door there? Onto the
Correct,
patio?
so the lounge / seating area, that's all enclosed space. There's no door that leads to the outside there.
Okay, and what would the process be if a door were to be added? How would the
So they
applicant
would have
proceed?
to, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay, I was just
They
wondering
would have to,
how the
doing it again, sorry.
Very hard with Zoom and in person. How would the applicant proceed if they wanted to add a door? What would the restrictions be, or how would that be handled?
Yeah, so if they would like to have a door, they would have to apply for an amendment to the conditional use permit. So, we would review and see if we consider it a minor or major amendment. If it's a major amendment, we would bring it back to the PC hearing. But essentially, adding a door is kind of an expansion of space. So I can see it becoming a major amendment. But, of course, we would review it once it gets submitted that way. But essentially, it would just be processed through a conditional use permit amendment.
Okay, thank you. I have a few questions about the restroom facilities. How are the number of restroom facilities calculated? Maybe
Sure.
we can go through that process.
All right, so for this use, we have a section of our code for bars and nightclubs that calculates the minimum required bathrooms or water closets is how it's listed in there for this use. So they require 2 water closets per each gender. So that means 4 total. The applicant is providing 4 unisex bathrooms. And then they also require additional urinals or other additional water closets depending on the occupancy level. So the occupancy level has to reach a certain point to require additional urinals and water closets. This project does not meet that threshold, so they're just required to have 4 water closets for the zoning requirements.
Okay, and the number of toilets and urinals that are being provided within this building is relative to the occupancy. However, the restroom facilities are being shared with the adjacent business. Do you know how many restrooms are required in the adjacent business that is sharing the restrooms, or at least some of them? It looks like there's another restroom for the cannabis lounge that's separate.
Yes. So I reviewed this with building and safety, and it seems that the requirement for nightclubs that's listed in our zoning code is different from the California plumbing code. Their California plumbing code doesn't require as many water closets as the nightclub uses. They actually, I believe, only require 2 bathrooms or 2 water closets in total. So when they reviewed it, my apologies, when they reviewed the next door cannabis use and the restaurant use, they reviewed it all as one, and they found that, and the lounge area in the back, and they reviewed it as one, and they found that the required number of water closets is only 2. So their requirements are actually less than what the applicant is providing. So the applicant is actually providing more than what is required for the California plumbing code, and meeting also the requirements of the zoning code for nightclubs and bars.
Okay, and just some follow-up questions on that. So the cannabis lounge requires 2 restrooms. 2 toilets.
No, I'm sorry. It's the whole space. They did the calculations on the most stringent occupancy assembly status, and basically they found that the restaurant, the lounge, and the retail space in total requires only 2 water closets. The applicant's providing more than what's required per the California plumbing code.
Okay, so in total 2 would be required in all of the area, in all of those spaces, without it being subdivided.
Correct.
And as this is being presented here, there's a requirement for 4 toilet facilities for the bar, and there's 1 additional at the lounge. So I guess I'm trying to understand how the code is being met, because there's 2 businesses that are operating, and I understand that the whole area was calculated under the idea that it was perhaps not a bar, but it is, and there's a minimum required for the bar, and it's being shared with an adjacent facility.
Right.
Is there
I'm
any
sorry.
additional documentation from Building Health and Safety to understand how this is permissible? Because it feels like it's only covering half of the building, and there's another half that also is going to use the restrooms, and we haven't supplemented in this current plan.
Right. So the California Plumbing Code doesn't differentiate between bars, restaurants, nightclubs. They still have the same, plumbing fixtures requirements. So basically, when the building and safety reviewed this for, when it was a restaurant and as a retail space and lounge space, they deemed that the whole entire space, based off all the square footage and the occupancy status and assembly, that only 2 bathrooms are required. The requirement for the 4 bathroom requirements, it's actually a planning requirement that's listed in our zoning code. So there is some kind of disconnect between the 2, but essentially with the 4 water closets that they're providing for this bar use, they are meeting the zoning code requirements, and in terms of for the building itself, they are meeting the plumbing fixtures that's required per building for the entire building.
Okay. I guess one thing that I'm a little bit caught on here is the shared use of the bathroom facilities. So the other business on the other side, if there were no door to allow access to this restroom, would require more than 1 toilet?
So I'll defer this to the planning manager. Jen, do you mind responding?
No problem. Hi. Is this working? Okay. So the provision in the zoning ordinance for restrooms for nightclubs is more about impacts on the neighborhood, so that there are enough water closets that if a busy nightclub is impacted on a Saturday night, people aren't going elsewhere in the neighborhood where they should not be going. So, so this is less about the plumbing code necessarily. That requirement is mostly just because it was an issue at the time that the zoning code was adopted. So that's what's under our purview tonight is the zoning ordinance requirements, and then the plumbing code requirements, like Roger mentioned, are were revisited today by one of our plan check engineers just to make sure that everything was above board with the plumbing code, and they're satisfied with the number of water closets as far as the building code goes. I hope that helps.
Okay, thank you. I think one of where I'm leading with this is, what if that door were not there? What would that mean? But maybe to focus on the door there, how is that being handled in terms of security and guests moving between those 2 spaces? Or is that a question for the applicant?
That's probably best for the applicant, and then I know Roger can follow up if there's still questions.
Okay. And then how about ventilation? Do we know if the ventilation systems between these 2 properties are combined or separate?
Again, that's best for the applicant.
My mic is a little better now. One last question. So the zone text amendments that were passed by City Council, how would that impact a project like this? How would this project fall into review?
Since this is a bar, it's a major conditional use permit, and the requirements for those have not changed, is my understanding. Yes.
Okay.
So it was the minor conditional use permits for restaurant alcohol that changed, not for full alcohol at a bar or a nightclub.
Thank you for clarifying. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lombardi. Does anyone else have any questions for staff? I have a couple of quick questions. Roger, just so I'm clear, did the previous tenant share restrooms with the adjacent tenant, or did they not coincide?
The previous tenant, as in like the restaurant and the retail?
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
Okay, got it. I'm also curious, and for whatever reason, is this the same applicant that owns the cannabis lounge next door, or are they 2 separate owners?
No, I think it's the same owner.
Oh, it is the same. So the person, so the applicant operating, who would be operating this space also operates the cannabis facility next door?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, got it. Thank you. And finally, what is the total occupancy for this space?
So building safety told me that the total occupancy for the space is 41.
41 people?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, those are my questions. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions at this time for staff? Roger, as I understand it, just because this is a conditional use permit hearing, the applicant will not have a presentation, correct?
Typically, they're allowed to present.
Sure.
But I don't think my applicant has one.
No, it's okay.
Oh, sorry.
I just wondered.
So good evening to the chair, good evening to all the commissioners. No, we don't have a presentation to make, but I'd like to answer the questions from the prior commissioner. I believe there were 2 questions that Roger said that the applicant could answer. So I'm here, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Sure. So normally what we do is we have staff presented the item, which has happened, and we have commissioners ask questions of staff. So typically the applicant would have 10 minutes to present. So you're welcome to use as much time of that as you need to answer questions asked by the other commissioners.
Okay. So, yes, so my name is Jay Handel, and both properties are co-owned. The Cannabis Lounge is one organization, and the bar is a separate one. That's California law. They have to be completely separate, and they have to have 2 separate addresses, and they have to be well secured. So to answer the question about the hallway and the bathroom, there will be a security guard posted there the entire time that location is open, so that nobody will be able to go through from one end to the other. If you're in the bar, you're in the bar. If you're in the cannabis area, you're in the cannabis area. But there will be no going through with alcohol or with cannabis to either location. As far as the HVAC, yes, completely separate units for both. You know, think about the bar as being just a separate business, you know, completely. Don't think about it that we own both. Think if one rented one and one rented the other, they would have to have completely separate units and security separate and everything. So we're treating them as 2 separate units under California law. And, you know, myself, my background, just so you know, is I am elected in the West LA area on the neighborhood council system for 13 years. And I'm a hearing examiner for the police commission. I do not smoke or do any THC, and quite frankly, I'm a compliance person to make sure all of our stores stay fully compliant. And I stay in touch with all the local jurisdictions on a regular basis. And my past, I owned 5 restaurants for 27 years throughout Southern California. So I'm an experienced operator, I'm a compliant operator, and I work very well with all the cities, be it Los Angeles, Culver City, Calabasas, now West Hollywood, and happy to be in West Hollywood. I have to say, when I moved here in 1975, I moved into 450 North Kings Road. That was the first place I lived in when I moved out to California. So I'm not unfamiliar with West Hollywood. So, and I would obviously appreciate your support tonight.
Thank you. Do we have additional questions? Vice Chair Thomas, please go ahead.
Thank you. I had the exact same questions as Commissioner Lombardi. I appreciate that there'll be a security guard, but I do have a question about the division of the outdoor space and how it's divided, because on the plans there's a darkening, it's like a gray box, and it's not labeled or dimensioned, and there's no materials listed. So, and we also don't have renderings or elevations other than the south elevation. So it's hard to know what the materials and the design looks like for this patio. And I want to be clear, because as you stated, there are rules about separating cannabis and alcohol. So can you please explain the outdoor patio design, like what the division is? Is there we were told there's not a door, but it kind of looks like there's a door, and it seems like there would be a door if there's a security guard. So can you, I mean, is it a window? Like what is this on the plans between E and F? There's like a dark something that kind of makes it seem like it's a door. So what exactly is the division between the outdoor sitting area and the cannabis lounge?
So I'd ask Roger if you could put that up so I could see exactly what the commissioner is talking about. But before he gets it up, I can tell you, the glassed-in area is part of the bar, and there is no door leading out. The only area leading outside is coming from the dispensary to the outside. And the outside is being worked on, I mean, it's basically an outdoor foliage. It's been existing for decades, okay, along with the koi pond and the bungalows that are out there. There is some work going to be done on the bungalows to make them more compliant with air conditioning, with heating. If the commissioner could show me which area you're talking about.
Where the hand just was, so this area right there, so what exactly is this, and just south of that, what are these two things?
So there's no doors there. You know, there used to be a door where the hand is now, but there are no doors all along the glass wall because that would allow people to go outside, and we cannot have that. So the entrance to that area is through, I wish I could give you a cursor, but if you look above the area where it says all gender restrooms, okay, there is a doorway. You can see an opening here, right there near your hand, not there, but above. Right there, that's an opening, and that's the opening that takes you outside. So, and that comes from the area with the striping, which is the cannabis area or the other building. So there is no entrance from the bar other than where here we will have security to make sure nobody comes out of the bathroom area to go out that door. So
Okay.
it's fully secured, fully secured.
Okay, and I just had one other question. On the third page of the plans, there's an indication for areas A, B, C, D, E, and F, but then in the general notes, it's only a breakdown of A, B, C, D to the right in that area. So I just wanted to find out what E and F were meant to indicate because it's not in the ledger.
Let's see. If you could bring it back to where the commissioner was talking about so I can see it. Thank you. So E and F, okay, is just pointing out where the bathroom areas are, is E, and F is showing that it is a solid wall going all along this area here. Because outside of the walled area is the area towards Norris to the left. So it's just yes, correct. So it's just showing this is an outdoor, this is not part of our property. This is an area that is walled off. It's the property line, and beyond it to the west is Norris.
Okay, thank you so much. Those are my only questions, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any additional questions for the applicant at this time?
Yes,
Please go ahead.
thank you. Could you help explain the logic of the shared restrooms and why you're proceeding with this design?
Yes, happy to. So originally, we tried to look at building a number of restrooms. Actually, there's 5 restrooms, not 4. So let me just say that if you go back to that plan, Mr. Rath, I can show you the 5th bathroom, which is in the outside area. Okay. So this area where the hand is, That is a 5th bathroom to service just the outside area. And then the idea of the 4 bathrooms here, because of the limitation of building space and the fact that it is dual ownership of the 2 businesses, this is exactly how I built my restaurant in Pasadena, Mi Piace, by having shared bathrooms with the businesses that we owned in that building. This was actually something that the biggest hurdle was the health department, and because of joint ownership and the landlord being a partner in our businesses, and I think you all know who the landlord is for the property, it was approved for the sake of saving some space and being able to have enough operating room between the 2 businesses.
So this was to save space.
It was generally, there's not, I mean, each area is about 1,600 square feet. And to give you an idea, you know, my bar in Culver City was over 5,000 square feet. And my dispensaries that I have in Venice and Lompoc and Pico and Centinela, the minimum is 2,600 square feet and goes up as high as 6,000 square feet. So opening a boutique style dispensary and a boutique bar, you know, with 44 people as an occupancy in a bar, as you can imagine, that's not a very big bar, and it certainly isn't a nightclub, you know, and the 1,600 square feet in the dispensary itself is at least 1,000 square feet smaller than the smallest dispensary we operate. So we're trying to be very conservative in what we do and to make sure we don't have impacts on the neighborhood. And certainly, you know, this bar will have very little to no impact on the neighborhood at all because of the size and the occupancy.
How are you monitoring this door between the 2 spaces?
Security guards. The entire time we're open, there will be on-site security. There's on-site security now.
At that door?
And no, not yet, because the bar's not open.
Of course.
But we have on-site security currently. We have a contract with Foulnet Security with all of our stores. And when the bar and the consumption area are ready to open, then we will bring on at least 2 more guards, one who will just be at the bathroom area, one who will be in the bar area, and of course the one that's in the consumption/dispensary area, giving us enough guards that they can rotate for a break and make sure that that area is secured the entire time we're open.
It seems like a lot of effort to have someone at that door versus, for instance, pushing that wall in toward the ADA toilet and trying to provide 2 restrooms for the other facility and then maintain the 4 for the bar versus having all this security. But
so we would, just to be clear, we looked at that, and the problem is pushing the wall in to get more space. The problem is the doorway you see going out to the consumption over at the top next to, above the all gender bathroom area. Yeah, right there, that doorway that goes from the dispensary to the consumption area. If we push the wall to the east to try and put in another bathroom, then we wouldn't comply with ADA on the door, and we wouldn't be able to put a door to the right of it because of the way the structure is. So that would eliminate being able to have a door to go out to the outside area. And if it just wasn't possible. We had the architect look very, very carefully, and we came up, I think, 4 or 5 inches short of being able to do what you're talking about. And believe me, I would have preferred it.
Okay, and onto the bar, how are you managing trash, the collection of trash, and then placing the trash outside?
All of the trash is stored in the back in a utility area, and all the trash is brought out to the street per, Athens, who we have to contract with. And, it's working well now, and it will continue to work.
How do you bring the trash to that utility area if there's no door through the lounge or other adjacent location? Are you going out the front door and around?
So if you look on the right side of the property, okay, and go all the way to the front door, okay, what you will see is that there is a hallway. I think it's on a different drawing. It's on the cannabis drawing, but you see the door to the very right at the bottom?
Yes.
There is a hallway that comes up and over, and it was dictated by fire to have that hallway, and that's the hallway that's used to bring the garbage in and out. So it doesn't go through the cannabis area, and it doesn't go through the bar. It goes through the fire hallway out to the consumption area.
So you'll take the trash out the front door and then into
And
that
put it
corridor?
on the street. Put the cans on the street to be picked up on trash day.
Okay.
Which is what we do now.
Okay. That's my last question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff or the applicant at this time? I'm going to take that as a no. David, do we have any public speakers on this item?
Thank you, Chair. No, we've received no public comments for this item.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment portion of the public hearing, and we can move into deliberation. I'm not going first, so. Commissioner Lombardi, you up for
I
it?
was just going to say I didn't want to go first either.
Okay. Vice Chair Thomas.
I'll go first, but I really don't have anything to say. I just want to say that I'm actually, happy to see this bar coming because it brings life and vitality to Center City, to the positive impact on public safety. It's job creation. I live on Harper, so works out for me. And I'm, in general, I'm in favor of the project. So just wanted to break the ice so that other people feel comfortable going.
Very much appreciate that. Commissioner Gregoire?
I support approval of staff's recommendation. My questions about security and protecting the residential neighborhood of the building were answered, and my concerns about bathrooms were answered.
Thank you. Commissioner Caballero.
Yeah, all my questions were answered during the question and answer period, and I really don't have an issue with this project. I do like staff's recommendation of closing or stopping serving alcohol at 1:30. I think that's important if it is something that we need to call out. But outside of that, I'm in support of this project.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Lombardi?
Thank you. I'm generally in support of this project. I actually have a question for some of the more senior commissioners here. Because the decisions that we're reviewing on this property are part of the land use, so they go beyond the use of this property in perpetuity. I guess I'm wondering, there's no dance floor. How is this handled in the past? Is that something that's reviewed, or the fact that in the future it could morph into a different type of establishment? Is there anything we need to be considering there? I guess that's just a question. I don't really have any particular concerns other than what's consistent with what we've done in the past for properties like this. And then I know that there was a note about potential for this property to be a local resource. So that's something to consider as well. And in terms of signage, maybe that's more of a comment for staff as this moves forward.
Great, thank you. Roger, I guess I'd have to reopen the other part of the public hearing to ask this, but Roger, can you just confirm how many parking credits we got for this? And that we did get them?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. And see you.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Perfect. So yeah, the report actually says that they're located in the parking district 2 zone. It's not that they have parking credits. They were actually required to get additional parking because of our code section that allows for, the change of use, if they meet these certain conditions, they don't need to provide additional parking. And that's kind of what happened too for the previous use too, the restaurant use. So there's no parking credits.
So there's no parking credits, and there's just, is it just you park where you can find parking and go? Is that?
Yeah, so parking credit doesn't really guarantee a parking space, but they are patrons, are able to use the public parking that's in that area. It's just that, with the code change for the change of use, it just doesn't require us to ask for additional parking.
Okay, great, thank you. Also, I'm in error here, but I just want to know, I should have asked this before, this is my bad, sorry. First public meeting, IRL, in 2.5 years. I'm blaming it on that. Does anybody have any disclosures? No? No, okay, good. So I'm confirming nobody has any disclosures. I should have asked that earlier in the meeting, that's my bad. I don't have any additional questions. Does anyone have any additional deliberation or comments that they'd like to make? Or does someone have a motion they'd like to put forward?
I've just made a motion.
Oh, thank you for telling me.
I'll second.
Just to make sure we're comfortable with this, Commissioner Lombardi, to your point earlier, are you comfortable with the state of the discussion?
I'm comfortable. I was wondering if we've ever put any restrictions in place in the past with regards to there being a dance floor or not, or anything like that. I feel like someone would have spoken up if so.
That I recall. I mean, when Stash came through, they requested a dance floor.
Right.
So that was very clear.
Right.
If they need to come back to planning if they ask for a dance floor. It's not something that they can just implement. And that changes the counts, and all those things need to be readdressed at that point.
Yes, it would be an amendment to their CUP. Sorry, in the past, there was a difference in the parking ratio for a dance floor versus the rest of the bar. I'm trying to get information on whether that still exists, because when the parking codes changed, I don't know them by heart anymore. But those types of uses are different and would require a different request, so it would be an amendment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate the clarification.
And to alleviate maybe some of your questions around that, Stash is a dance bar and have food, and they have the exact same amount of fixtures as this business is providing. So in regards to the bathroom counts, I think they're totally fine also.
That's good to hear.
Great. And again, I just want to state for the record that all my questions were answered to my satisfaction, and it sounds like the rest of the commissioners are as well. So I am inclined to support this project. We do have a motion on the floor and a second. So David, can you go ahead and call the vote?
I'm sorry, it says that it was seconded by Chair Jones.
Oh, it was actually seconded by Commissioner Carvajero, was it not? Oh, he made the motion.
I seconded.
Commissioner Thomas seconded. Thank you. David, for the record, has that been recorded? I just want to make sure that you got that.
It's been noted, yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
And Vice Chair Thomas, if you could, thank you. And the motion passes unanimously. There is an appeal process. The resolution the Planning Commission just approved memorializes the Commission's final action on this matter. This action is subject to appeal to the City Council. Appeals must be submitted within 10 calendar days from this date to the City Clerk's office. Appeals must be in writing and accompanied by the required fees. The City Clerk's office can provide appeal forms and information about waiver of fees.
Great, thank you. Moving right along, new business, item 13, there is none. Item 14 is unfinished business, there is none. Item 15 is the excluded consent calendar, there is none. Item 16 is items from staff. 16A is our planning manager's update.
Good evening. We have a few things to discuss. So it's good to be back in the council chambers. It's good to see all of you in person. But given the climate that we're in right now and the hybrid approach, we wanted to just put it out there to the commission whether whether the commission wants to continue having in-person and or hybrid meetings or go back to a virtual meeting environment. So that's something that we can do by consensus of the commission if you so choose.
Great, thank you. Thank you for surfacing that. So just to be clear, it's my understanding that there is a pending indoor mask mandate that is supposed to happen starting next Friday unless our numbers change in terms of incidence rates. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
So I would defer to the rest of the commission and would like us to discuss this, but are we able to change this at any time if we want to come back to in-person? I mean, this wouldn't mean that planning commissions happen virtually in perpetuity.
Correct. We could revisit this when necessary. I would want to make sure that we're not going back and forth too much because that's confusing to the public,
Sure.
but definitely we can revisit.
Great. Commissioner Gregoire.
You know, I personally feel comfortable being in person. However, if the county reinstates the mask mandate, I don't really think we should be encouraging the public to be coming to our in-person meetings at this point. So if there is a new indoor mask mandate, I would support going back to virtual until the indoor mask mandate is repealed. I think it's probably good for us to encourage people to stay home with the heightened level of COVID circulating in the community. And I think we've shown that Zoom is a pretty effective way of conducting our meetings, and members of the community can participate, from the comfort of their homes and don't have to risk the higher level of COVID circulating in the community.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Caballero.
I agree. I agree with Commissioner Gregoire on this one.
That we remain in person?
No, to
go
to
virtual.
Zoom, virtual until the mask mandate changes.
Okay.
I'm fairly neutral on this one, but I understand the sentiment of what all the commissioners are saying. And honestly, as I literally just received an exposure notification on my phone, so I'm a heavy mask wearer, but I mean, it's a reality right now. And it might be good to encourage people to, go virtual where they can. The question that I have is maybe around, this might be a separate topic, but where this heads next with regards to, for example, today, if a commissioner is sick and cannot attend, is there any way that we could look at a hybrid setup for someone like that? Or do you want to talk about that later? But
I
that's
think
my
we
only real thought.
And staff can clarify, I believe we all have to be either in person together or on Zoom together. There can't be a mixture because of the Brown Act.
Yeah, and the biggest concern, for example, tonight with the number of public hearings, if the members of the public cannot see a commissioner throughout the entire meeting, and as you can see, we have to switch between Zoom and Granicus, which is the system we use to run the meeting, we could have a legal issue. So that's the biggest concern. What I will share with the commission and members of the public is that we have a plan and have ordered the supplies to make the room fully Zoom integrated. But as many of you know, there are supply chain issues, and we ordered this stuff September of last year and are still waiting. So we don't really call these hybrid meetings. We simply are using Zoom as a way for people to call into the meeting. And we can do this under AB 361, but as many of you know, the Brown Act is pretty strict on teleconference capabilities normally. So I think we just Lauren Langer, the city attorney, and I continue to look at legislation and what's happening at that level. And there may come a time when there's an integration between in-person and virtual for appointed and elected officials. But currently the goal is for appointed officials to be in person and the call-in feature to be available for members of the public.
Thank you for clarifying.
You're welcome.
I may be blurring my presentations between various planning commissions, but I thought it was the city of Ojai recently that had a hybrid setup that I presented to. So I'm curious how they pulled that off, or maybe they have this setup that you're speaking about already established, and that's how they move forward. But yeah, I think that my concern is only around, people being able to participate, especially if people are continuing to get COVID, but maybe feel well enough that they could get on Zoom. Otherwise, heading toward virtual temporarily makes sense to me. It's great to be here in person, though.
Commissioner Thomas, or Vice Chair Thomas? God, I'm never going to learn. Sorry.
You're fine. I agree. I think we need to, have everyone prioritize their health, and we should consider virtual for just a little while at least.
Yeah, I'm aligned with what everyone has said. I think just to comply, well, one, I don't know that any of us want to come, potentially be exposed, and have to wear a mask for the entirety of a meeting. I think that's a little onerous for everybody here. I also just, maybe stating the obvious, but, this is a community that has, lived through another epidemic, and I just want to be sensitive to anybody's health status, if they're immunocompromised for whatever reason. I don't presume to know what everyone is going through. So I would just think it would be safer to err on the side of caution and go virtual until it's safer. Maybe there are boosters available for Omicron, whatever it might be. But I think we can discuss that at the right time. It just seems California's kind of been just a super spreader event as a state. So I think it's probably wise for us to go virtual until the dust has settled a little bit.
Okay, that sounds good. So then that takes us to our subcommittees. We would like to know, same question for Design Review Subcommittee, the Sunset Arts and Advertising Subcommittee, and the Long Range Planning Subcommittee. Do we want to hold those also virtually?
In regards to design review, we had an in-person design review meeting last week, and I have to say, it felt so antiquated. When you're on Zoom, everybody's looking at the same thing. Everybody's focused in the same direction. And it was interesting to watch the applicant come in with all these big posters that are just going to end up in the garbage. And it just seemed like, from a carbon footprint point of view and from an accessibility, from the public point of view, design review, I feel, actually works better on Zoom than it does in person. And there's less waste, and the conversation seems to be more dynamic in that sort of Zoom world. So for me, I too like in person, but for design review and the types of discussions that we've had over the last couple of years, I think have excelled the conversations that we had before the pandemic, which is interesting because it's something that we're also experiencing at UCLA with teaching. A lot of the design studios are actually more successful online than they have been in person. And we all thought it was impossible before, and the transition has kind of taught us all something very new and different. So that's kind of my point of view with design review.
Any further comments about design review, Sunset Arts and Advertising Subcommittee, or long range planning meetings?
I agree 100% with all those comments. I think the only thing that's a little bit tricky is material samples, which is something that we used to do, but all of the other benefits do seem really great. It did feel quite antiquated, and we weren't able to have a hybrid sort of setup either, so it really didn't give people two options in that regard. And so the default option was the more challenging one in terms of showing up in my mind, although I guess there's a technology challenge as well that should be acknowledged. But it felt like, it felt a little bit archaic. I agree.
Any other comments? Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah, this is just for subcommittees. I was just going to say, if we're back in person and we're, long range has always been just before the meeting. I'm fine with keeping it in person. we could also do it virtually, but it does just nest nicely, kind of, we're here for both meetings. I think that can stay as is. I would also say that for Sunset Arts and Advertising Subcommittee, I would be fine with having that be virtual. I agree with Commissioner Caballero in that, with the exception of, material samples and things like that, it just seems easier for everyone to be there. I would also say virtual meetings make it a lot easier for people to participate from further away. Maybe they're out of town. I don't know how much that applies, but I think it would help people miss less meetings in a time when people are actually starting to travel again. So I'd be aligned with keeping those meetings virtual.
I have one last comment.
Oh, please go.
Yeah, I mean, in regards to design review, because I was giving it some thought, for large pivotal projects like Robertson Lane or Melrose Triangle or the Arts Club, maybe we consider those in person as sort of standalones, because we do have materials, they do have models, and it's sometimes with something like that, maybe it's good to consider when those special projects come up. That's the only thing that would be sort of a standalone for me.
And that people could still tune in, via Zoom and
right.
via phone.
It'd be a hybrid.
Okay, so let me just restate what I've heard to make sure I have it correctly. Okay, so we will be holding Planning Commission meetings virtually until there is some sort of change, such as the lifting of the indoor mask mandate that we feel like is coming soon.
Yeah, I think that's, or incidence rates go down, but I would presume that would, go along with the ending of a mask mandate.
Okay. For Design Review Subcommittee, we will hold those virtually unless it's a large, complex project, and we'll just use judgment on that and notice the meetings accordingly. For the Sunset Arts and Advertising Subcommittee, those will be moved to virtual until further notice. And then for long-range planning, we will hold those virtual when Planning Commission is virtual, and then hold those in person when Planning Commission is in person. Does that track?
I think that sounds right.
One suggestion I would make that we can all think about for projects where a materials palette is provided or is important to the review, we can have those things available at City Hall, and the public and commissioners can come in, and now that City Hall is open, we can have the that type of thing available too.
I like that suggestion.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, I like that suggestion.
Agree.
Okay. The next item I had is we want to schedule a special meeting for August 4th for the Long Range Planning Subcommittee. That Planning Commission meeting was canceled. And it's not the typical Planning Commission date that would have a Long Range Planning Subcommittee meeting. But we would like to keep the West Hollywood West Neighborhood Overlay District update moving, and so we'd like to use that date if possible. So is there a conflict with that?
Just to be clear, it was the August 4th meeting was canceled?
Yes.
Man, I missed a lot at the last meeting. Okay. Oh, okay. So the August 4th meeting is canceled, but you're requesting that the long-range planning meeting still be held?
Right, it would be a special meeting because it's not the typical date for the long-range planning subcommittee.
Got it. Does this supersede the one that's currently planned for August 18th?
No.
No, okay. Would it be at 5:30 normal time, just virtually?
Yes, I mean, we could propose an alternate time since planning commission isn't happening, but we were proposing it at 5:30.
So I was going to state this during my commissioner comments. On August 4th, I'm the executive director of the Los Angeles LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce, and I'll be representing the chamber at the National LGBT Chamber Conference on the 4th, and it's not local. So I thought that I was going to be announcing that I would be missing the Planning Commission meeting, but there's no Planning Commission meeting. So I don't have the agenda for the conference yet, so I don't know if I'm available at 5:30, but can I report to you by tomorrow once I see if I can get the conference schedule?
I think that's fine. I think we can plan on having it, and then if we have to change plans, we can change plans.
Chair Jones would be the only person there.
Right. I mean, it would be a one-person meeting, which really wouldn't be a meeting.
I guess, let me back up. We would just say, the answer is yes, we'll have it unless we hear otherwise from you. And if we hear otherwise from you, Vice Chair Thomas, then we can move it to a different date or change or put it on another agenda.
Okay.
I think I know the answer to this question. I'm going to ask the city attorney. So we are a commission of 5 people right now. We'll be 6 at our next meeting. Presuming Kimberly is able to be with us, which I hope she can. Is there a scenario where we could have someone sub in, or is that just not? I'm assuming because of the size, because we are down a person on the subcommittee, because we are down 2 commissioners right now, right? So I'm assuming there'd be a potential quorum situation, but I'm just curious. Not that I wouldn't love to have you, but.
Yeah, I believe, I know Lauren, the city attorney, has been looking at that possibility, and so I don't have a definitive answer there, only to say I think that there were some city policies to look at for the feasibility of doing something like that. So apologies, I don't have a more definitive answer.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, just let us know. It's posted.
Okay, so we'll put that tentatively. Vice Chair Thomas, let us know when you can, and then we'll finalize once we know more. And then finally, we would like to schedule a Sunset Arts and Advertising Subcommittee meeting for September 8th. We have not yet set out an agenda for the Sunset Arts and Advertising Subcommittee. We were planning to do that once we have subcommittee appointments, which has been delayed a little bit. So we would just like to schedule a special meeting of that subcommittee to review a project that's been patiently waiting to get on an agenda. So would that be amenable to the members of the subcommittee for September 8th?
Yeah, that's fine. I don't have any conflicts at that date.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Make sure. Let me check both my calendars. 1 second. Sorry, I think it's fine. Microsoft needs to make its products a little more user-friendly. Yeah, that's totally fine.
Great. And then lastly, what I normally do is go through the upcoming agendas. So the next meeting will be August 18th. The August 4th meeting will be canceled. It looks like it will be held virtually. We have a heavy agenda that night, so just keep that in mind. We've got a 24-unit multifamily residential development on San Vicente Boulevard at 948 to 954. We're looking at a billboard at 8497 to 8499 Sunset Boulevard. We're looking at general plan consistency finding for an easement vacation at 8920 Sunset, which is the Arts Club. And then 3 zone text amendments, which one is a cleanup for ADU, accessory dwelling unit language, to bring us into compliance with state law. One is a prohibition of fossil fuel service stations, and one is for replacing some language in the code with regard to extended hours permits. It's just a cleanup. The September 1st meeting will have 2 subdivisions similar to what we saw tonight, one at 950 Ogden and one at 933 Spalding. And then we're hoping to also bring the West Hollywood West design review standards, the update to the neighborhood overlay district that night if possible. So that's what's coming up for Planning Commission. Design Review Subcommittee will be held, the August 11th meeting does not have items, it's been canceled, but August 25th, we will be looking at 8850 Sunset Boulevard, the mixed-use hotel project. Then on Sunset Arts and Advertising Subcommittee on September 8th, it's 8590 Sunset will be reviewed. And that is the next meeting of that subcommittee as well. And then at Long Range Planning Subcommittee, if we are able to, on August 4th, we will review the West Hollywood West Design Review Standards, the update to the Neighborhood Overlay District. And on August 18th, zone text amendment for to discuss the prohibition of development of new or expanded non-residential projects on residentially zoned parcels. So those are the upcoming items for the next few meetings. And that completes what I have to say, unless you have more questions for me.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Gregoire?
I just want to mention that I won't be at the August 18th meeting. We should have 6 commissioners by then, but in case there's any concern about a quorum, I will not be there.
Thank you for the heads up. Item 17 is public comment. David, do we have any public speakers on the line?
No, Chair.
That's after. Yeah, it's okay.
No, we have no public speakers for this public comment.
Great, thank you. Item 18 is items from commissioners. Please go ahead.
My apologies, Chair. I just wanted to first say to soon-to-be Commissioner Copeland, if you're watching, I hope you feel better. And I wanted to encourage everyone to come to the 39th anniversary of National Night Outs on August 2nd. It is a time when West Hollywood residents gather in the streets to show, it's a show of unity against crime, and it is on the West Hollywood website. So I hope people come out for that.
Great, thank you. Any other commissioner comments?
I just wanted to calm any alarms. My exposure alert was actually from the 11th, and I remember it was my neighbor, so I don't know why it's sending it to me again, but so y'all know I'm tested negative.
Thank you. Thank you for telling us now at the end of the meeting. Any other comments? I just have one note, and I just, because it looks like, I am chair, at least through the general election. So I'm getting married this year. Wouldn't normally publicly surface this, but it does mean that there is going to be a date that I am not going to be here. It's not for my wedding, but it's for an associated event, and that is on October 6th. So I just wanted to flag that, and I'll continue to make reminders. But yeah, so that's it. And unless anybody has anything else, any notes about subcommittee management, which I believe everyone has already, we've kind of gone through that, we can move into adjournment. We will not be meeting Thursday, August 4th, as is published on the agenda for this meeting. We will be meeting August 18th virtually at 6:30 p.m. and look forward to seeing and hearing everyone there. Thank you.
Did you guys know that the city of West Hollywood has one of the best walking scores in all of California, probably the whole galaxy? Take that, New York. And now we're going to have one of the best scooting scores. I'm Nick for WehoTV News, and we're going to have scooterific times scooting around West Hollywood, and it's going to be scooter awesome.